else I'd rather be standing across from when I lay the gloves down or when I go into my final fight. Max is a legend. I got so much respect for the guy.
MMA fighter Dustin Poirier is gearing up for his final battle against Max Holloway to end his career with a bang. Looking at the released clips, Dustin's preparation for his Trilogy bout against Max Holloway is intense and focused. He emphasized endurance, power, and defensive techniques to counter Holloway's relentless striking. His regimen included rigorous sparring, strength and conditioning, and strategic drills aimed at enhancing his footwork and head movement. He is also hitting the heavy bag with full force to finally end Holloway's career. In another video, Poirier piqued the audience's interest by showing off his gym routine and his preparation to face the best. In an interview with Joe Rogan, Dustin Poirier discussed his training regimen with strength and conditioning coach Phil Daru. Poirier praised Daru as a highly respected expert and a dedicated student of strength and body movement. He emphasized that Daru didn't just prioritize getting stronger, but also aimed to improve efficiency and functionality. Poirier credited Daru with significantly helping him, especially with hip mobility and adapting workouts based on his body's needs to face Max Holloway's style.
Do you do maintenance work and training?
Yeah, beginning of every training camp, my strength and conditioning coach, Phil Daru, kind of gets a base. Like we build off the base and switch it up in phases throughout the training camp. So the base at the beginning of camp is a lot of, legs, a lot of lifting, heavy
That guy's
stuff.
very respected.
Yeah.
Highly respected guy.
Yeah. He's a good dude, man. He's a student. Phil's a student of strength and body movement. Not just getting strong, but efficient. And he's helped me out a lot with a lot of different hip stuff we do. And he knows my limits as well. So he knows if I run a bunch of sprints, I'm going to be banged up for the rest of the week. So we've called audibles on a lot of different things we do. And he's helped me out a lot, man.
Meanwhile, Dustin also explained the moment he thought he should be retiring from fighting altogether. He added that his last fight was extremely tough and he suffered injuries to his nose and knee in multiple places. He mentioned that it had become hard to recover from injuries, so he has decided to finally retire from the UFC after facing one last legendary opponent, Max Holloway.
In the moment, I felt like this might be it. This is it. That's why I kind of spoke to Joe. I didn't officially announce my retirement, but I felt like this was it. I came short of another title fight. I'm never going to get another title fight. I would have to win 10 in a row probably to get another one. And I don't think I have it in me to go through what it's going to take to get another one. I've been doing this a long time. And I got back home, healed my injuries. My knee was banged up. I went into the fight with busted ribs, so that had to heal. And then obviously the nose was crushed and broken in 5 places. So it just healed up, got back on the mats, went back to American Top Team later on, trained a little bit, came back home. Then I just went again a couple weeks ago. Got beat up by Gamrot.
Furthermore, Dustin shared that he had been thinking of fighting Justin Gaethje or Ilia Topuria for his last fight, but it ended up being Max Holloway. Regardless of the unforeseen circumstances, Dustin revealed that he had been eyeing Holloway for a long time, and once his fight with Justin fell apart, he quickly returned to Max for an offer.
What about the opponent? Did you say, I know you said legends only, but did you specifically say Max?
No, dude, that wasn't the name I even mentioned to them when we started talking about this fight coming together.
Wow.
This location and retirement fight. I had threw out other names.
Okay, can I ask who those names were?
Topuria, Gaethje. I thought me and Gaethje would close the trilogy maybe. But this has been going on so long. Gaethje was matched up with Dan Hooker at the time that this really started taking place. So he was he wasn't an option at the time.
If you had a top choice, who would it be?
Man, that's tough, you know, looking back, because I've been knowing about Max for a little while now, so I've kind of been set on that.
Additionally, Dustin commented that his last fight with Max was really severe, and the third fight will be super intense as well. He mentioned that anytime Max comes into the cage, he is there to dominate. Just like him, Poirier said that Holloway is also at the end of his career, which is why he picked him for his Legends-only fight.
No, I mean, Max is great. Like you said, I was his first fight in the UFC. He's my last. Like I said in my fight with Benoit Saint Denis, bro, this is the nature of the beast. Guys get old, young guys come in. It's just cool that a full circle moment like this, me and Max fought at the beginning of his UFC career, fought in the middle of his run, and now fighting at the end of my career. It's kind of cool. But closing the trilogy out with Gaethje means something to me too. But thinking about what he said in that interview, like, our families don't deserve this. Anytime me and this guy fight, it's going to be a head-on collision. Somebody's getting hurt, or both of us are getting hurt. We can fight 100 times. That's 100 hospital trips for sure. So, not saying that the Max fight won't be a war, because the last one definitely was.
Moving on, Michael Bisping, being an avid fan of matchups like these, is super excited for the fight between Holloway and Poirier, and said that the announcement has been spreading rapidly online. He mentioned that the fans are particularly excited as this match closes the chapter on Poirier's epic MMA journey. Bisping expresses eagerness and emphasizes the historical significance of the fight, calling it sensational and legendary.
Waiting to get announced has finally been announced. It is official, and no, I'm not talking about the headliner for International Fight Week. I'm not talking about John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, and I'm certainly not talking about Jake Paul's next bloody opponent. No, I'm talking about the Diamond, Dustin Poirier, taking on the one and only Max Blessed Holloway in Dustin Poirier's final fight. All you gotta do is Google the name Dustin Poirier. It is literally all over the internet. This just broke a few hours ago. I can't wait for it. This is a sensational fight, and the final fight of Dustin Poirier's legendary career. It's set to go down at UFC 318, which is in New Orleans, so it's going to be a home fight for Dustin Poirier. The crowd is going to go absolutely.
In addition to this, Michael added that the crowd will be electric as they witness the trilogy between Poirier and Holloway. He added that their first clash occurred in 2012, with Poirier submitting Holloway, and both fighters were very young. Bisping mentioned that these two fighters have a rich history, and this fight is a full circle moment, potentially marking the end of both of their careers.
Atmosphere will be electric, and the fight is going to be ridiculous. It all goes down at the Smoothie King Arena in New Orleans, where I got assaulted many, many years ago. They love a good fight in New Orleans, let's just put it like that. Bang! He punches me in the face, but it was the weakest punch I've ever felt in my life. Of course, this one will be a trilogy. The two have met before. The first match went down at UFC 143, February 2012, when Max Holloway was only 20 years old. But to be fair, Dustin Poirier was only 23 years old as well. These two have been fighting in the octagon forever, and they have put on some sensational fights. In that first fight, of course, Dustin Poirier won via first round submission, but they would meet again in April 2019. This time, Khabib Nurmagomedov was unavailable.
On the contrary, following his first career knockout loss to Ilia Topuria, Max Holloway announced his decision to move permanently to the lightweight division to have a battle against Dustin Poirier. He mentioned that he would be up for a fight, and it would be great to have that win against Poirier, who is set to retire after that.
Can I have a suggestion, please? I hope it's not Dustin Poirier's last fight, but I think if you can be his last fight and get one back, it would be sad, but at the same time, you know, a win for you.
Hey, that'd be nice. The Diamond, sign me up, bro. I love that guy. I got nothing but respect for the guy, but he is up 2-0 against my ass, and I don't have the best luck against people who's 2-0 against me, so I guess I gotta try it again.
In a conversation with Joe Rogan, Max reflected on his preparation for his previous fight against Dustin Poirier, which came on short notice. He explained that due to his usual routine of taking 2 weeks off before a fight, he effectively had only 4 weeks of training. Holloway humorously referenced a well-known photo of Poirier punching him in the face, and pointed out how out of shape he looked at the beginning of camp, calling himself fat. He added that short-notice fights never work well for him, even at this stage of his career.
Poirier fight, you go to 55, but you did it on pretty short notice, right?
Yeah, we had like, so the way we train is I always take 2 weeks off before a fight, so it was like 6 weeks, and then so we actually had 4 weeks to train for him, and I was like, I mean, pull up the picture of Poirier punching me in my face. There's a famous picture of Poirier punching me in my face. I look
Explain
fat.
that. When you said you take 2 weeks off before the fight, what do you mean?
So like strength and conditioning. So I don't do no strength and conditioning like the week before the fight. Like maybe we do like a little lift or whatever, but it's just something you maintain. Like, cause you can't get faster or stronger 2 weeks before a fight or even the week, right? So even with cardio, it's not gonna. Anything I do the week before the fight is not gonna help me, and anything I do the week of the fight is not gonna help me. All the hard work is done.
Right.
And that's what these guys. Yeah, look how fat I was. Look at that top right one.
On this topic, UFC legend Khabib Nurmagomedov also reflected on the closely contested fight between Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. He stated that Poirier impressed him with his boxing skills. Although he believed Max had the advantage in reach, footwork, and kicks, he acknowledged that the bout was very close. Khabib attributed Poirier's victory to the greater damage he inflicted during the fight and to using his technique to subdue Holloway.
He impressed me like with his boxing. Honestly, I think like Max have more long reach, and he can use his reach, his boxing, his footwork, kicks. But it was very close fight, and I think he win because of his damage. He gave him a little bit more damage. That's why he win, and I think he deserved. Like 55-45, he won this fight, and he impressed me with his boxing.
Meanwhile, former UFC fighter Chael Sonnen speculated that Dustin Poirier would fight Max Holloway even before the fight was officially announced. He mentioned that he questioned Poirier, and he reacted cautiously, appearing uncomfortable and suggesting the information had not yet been made public. Sonnen argued that his reluctance to confirm or deny details hinted at something significant in the works. From Poirier's response, Chael was able to tell that Poirier and Holloway would indeed face off, with the BMF title on the line.
What are you going to do with Poirier? We're even told that the UFC is booking a venue in Louisiana as a bit of a send-off. Now, supposedly that send-off is going to be with Max Holloway, but we've seen the BMF champion fight before without having to contest the belt. In fact, Max just did it. I asked that question to none other than Dustin Poirier, and then things got weird. Poirier starts getting, hey, I don't know where you got that information from. What he's trying to allude to is the fact that he and Max are going to fight, and whether that belt is up or not apparently has not been made common knowledge. Boy, things got weird. Like, he was worried that I was putting him in a position where he was going to have to reveal information that he was not yet ready to reveal. The fact that he didn't want to tell me because it was going to be so big at least leads me to believe, based on history, I can tell you a time where in this exact same situation, somewhere in the past, and using history as the trajectory to the future, I can tell you yes. And if that's true here, then that means that Dustin Poirier and Max are going to fight. And it also means Max is putting up the BMF.
Adding on to his narrative, Michael Bisping highlighted that the upcoming Holloway-Poirier fight is anticipated to be emotionally powerful and action-packed. He shared Dustin Poirier's MMA resume and said that it is phenomenal, with 40 professional fights and 30 wins. Despite recent setbacks, such as a loss to Islam Makhachev and a knockout by Justin Gaethje, Bisping added that he remains a fan favorite. Michael also highlights how Poirier has fought everyone who matters in the sport, including Conor McGregor.
Both of these men have had glittering careers. As I say, this is the final time we're going to get to see Dustin Poirier fight, and it'll be an emotional night inside that building, I'm telling you. Dustin Poirier is a great human being, a phenomenal fighter, and some of the performances have just been incredible. Let's have a look at his record here. The man overall has had 40 professional fights, 30 wins, 9 losses. Of course, last time out, lost to Islam Makhachev. Before that, Benoit Saint-Denis, a crazy fight, okay, where he got the stoppage in the second round. After almost getting annihilated in the first round, was head kick knocked out by Justin Gaethje. That was another one. That potentially could have been the final fight for Dustin Poirier, because those guys, they're one-on-one. But look at this, right? He's been in there with absolutely everybody. Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, Conor McGregor.
Meanwhile, Dustin Poirier has once again started his grueling sparring and training for his fight against Max Holloway. This comprehensive training approach underscored his commitment to ending his career on a high note against a formidable opponent like Holloway. Before Poirier actually started his training, he also showed the weight at which he currently resides, which may come as a shock to the MMA community.
Check it out.
Witnessing these action-packed training sessions, Daniel Cormier expressed excitement for the Trilogy fight between Holloway and Poirier. He reflected on their previous encounters and said that Poirier got an early win when Holloway was inexperienced. While talking about the rematch, Cormier said that Holloway looked undersized at 155 pounds, leaving him with another loss. Cormier said that despite Holloway's losses, this third fight is meaningful and exciting for the fans because it's a career-ending fight.
News came out this week. It was official. Dustin Poirier is fighting against Max Holloway for the BMF title in July in New Orleans. Hey, that's exciting enough for me in its own regard, that they're fighting in New Orleans. But what's most exciting is we get two guys that fight each other, and every time they fight each other, it's fun. First time, Max Holloway was far too young, didn't really know what he was doing in the UFC. Dustin got through him pretty convincingly. Second fight in Atlanta, Georgia for the interim title that earned the fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, Max Holloway was still a little small for 155. That is where the pudgy Max came from. Because you remember in that fight, Max went up, but his body didn't really change.
Additionally, Cormier explained why a third fight between Poirier and Holloway still makes sense, even after Poirier won the first two. He mentioned both fighters have stayed at the top of the sport for years. He traced Poirier's rise from a relatively unknown fighter to the champion that he is today. Moreover, Cormier added that Holloway came into the UFC as a young prospect and matured into a world champion. He also highlighted Poirier's plan to retire after the fight, significantly marking the end of his career.
With this one, it's easy to see why you would put Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier together. I mean, they're two of the best fighters in the world, or at least have been for a really long time. The amount of time that Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway have spent at the top of the UFC, it rivals just about any two fighters that you could ever find. Poirier came into the UFC as a guy that really didn't have any hype. He was brought in to get beat up by Josh Crispy. He beat the crap out of Josh Crispy and became the Dustin Poirier today. Max Holloway did have hype, but we saw Max Holloway grow up in the UFC. He was a baby when he got here. Big old ears, so skinny. Now he's a man, world champion, BMF champion, and that's on the line in New Orleans.
Cormier also noted that the fights between Max and Poirier spanned over a decade, emphasizing that each encounter showcased new versions of themselves. Drawing from his own experience with multiple rematches, Cormier explained that fighters always evolve between bouts, even if they carry the same name.
Fight got announced. Dustin Poirier said, "It would be nice to get in there, retire clear, go home with no stitches for my daughter, but knucklehead fashion. I'm going to stand in the middle with Max, and we're going to bleed, and we're going to put on a show for the last one." So Dustin Poirier essentially is saying that I'm going to do what I always do to entertain you, right? He said that our gap in years in terms of the fights, it's been huge. The first one in 2012, second one in 19, now this one's in 25. Each fight is a different fight. It's the same guy, but we've been in the game, we've been in the gym.
Meanwhile, Dustin Poirier praised Max Holloway and said that he is a legend and it would be great to cross gloves with him in his last fight. He added that this fight was in the works for a long time and it wasn't easy to convince the UFC to make this fight happen.
Anybody else I'd rather be standing across from when I lay the gloves down or when I go into my final fight. Max is a legend. I got so much respect for the guy.
Moreover, UFC 318, headlined by Dustin Poirier's final fight, has added several key matchups. Promotion announced a slew of new matchups for UFC 318 on July 19th at Smoothie King Center in New Orleans. In the main event, Poirier challenges Max Holloway for the BMF title in their third meeting, and Poirier's swan song in front of a home crowd. Among the new bouts, Kyler Phillips battles surging bantamweight contender Vinicius Oliveira, who has won 5 straight and all 3 of his octagon appearances. Additionally, a light heavyweight bout between Jimmy Crute and Marcin Prachnio, a welterweight scrap between Adam Fugit and Islam Dulatov, and a women's flyweight scrap pitting Louisiana's Carly Judas against Nicole Cagliari is set for the UFC's July pay-per-view event. Do you think Dustin Poirier can win the fight? Who will be Max's next opponent? We would love to hear your thoughts. Let us know in the comments section below and subscribe for more content like this.